Dark Souls 2, unanimously talked about as the worst FromSoft game, and a lot of people say it's even a bad game in general. I went into it after loving almost everything FromSoft has made, and I wanted to see if that holds up. Is it really as bad as people say? I'm going to go through a lot of different points, each one getting either worse or better, alternating good and bad. So the worst and the best parts of the game are going to be at the end of the video, and then it's all going to culminate into one score out of 100. Starting off with the good, Majula. For a hub world, it is just fantastic. Sorry, get my cat out of the way. Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls 1 is great. Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls 3 is great, but Majula just has a calming feeling to it with the waves rushing behind it. And I really like that it's all the houses, and like it really feels like, just a settlement in this cruel world that people come to live in peace. And I just love the peaceful nature of it. It's great. But it's still one of the smallest things that Dark Souls 2 does right. For the negative, we have the slow nature of the game. Now, this is only going to be jarring at first, especially if you've played other FromSoft games, like namely Elden Ring. It's just the combat is slower, takes a second to get used to, but once you're used to it, it doesn't really subtract from the game too much. It's just part of the game at that point. It's off-putting at first, and I don't prefer it over the more fast-paced combat like a Bloodborne or Elden Ring, but I don't think it like ruins the game by any means. Next, for the good category, we have the narrative. It's just pretty well written narrative-wise. You have to go slay the king, find out he's not actually that evil, but it's just nothing insane, but it's not bad. The kind of twist with the queen taking over, all in all, pretty good stuff. Um, Next up for the negatives, we have Branches of Yore. They're just annoying, to be honest. They like halt progress. There's a whole route from the starting area you can't get to without one. Not really a fan of them. It makes exploration a little more rewarding because if you find one, you can unlock more stuff. Certain NPCs are hidden behind them. I just overall don't think it was a great addition to the game, but it didn't ruin it. It's not really for me. Another good thing it does is the world diversity. Each zone truly feels very different from like the pirate setting in No Man's Wharf, the gutter with the scaffolding and it's dark and you gotta light the torches. Each area just feels completely different from the next, and I like that. Dark Souls 3 had that as well, and so did Dark Souls 1, but I really feel it more in Dark Souls 2. Like some of the areas there could have blended together a bit, but every area in Dark Souls 2 is unique and does its own thing. They'll have their own gimmicks, whether it's like the shade or the gas clouds in Harvest Valley. Like, it's just good. I liked it a lot. And combining with that for the next negative is the progression route of the game. It's cool that you have different routes you can go to get the souls of the great souls that you need the four of them. But it does take away near the end where you have all four and then you're looking where to go. You have to go back to the Throne of Want, and the ring will open doors. It's never really, at least as far as I could see, said in the narrative that you need to get the souls of the giants to weaken Vendrick, or else he's going to be strong. I don't know. It's just you feel a little lost, and it's one of the Dark Souls games that's just pretty hard to play without a guide. Like even Dark Souls 1 can get confusing. Everything loops back though. Eventually you'll figure it out where you need to go and what you need to do. But in Dark Souls 2, feels very easy to get lost in the end game specifically. And then the next positive thing, also tied into this, is just the world map in general. I loved getting the first four Great Souls, where you have four different routes you can go. There's the shortcut from the Forest of Fallen Giants that'll lead you to the Lost Bastille. Like, it's pretty good. And it's pretty much an open world, but still linear. And that's why some people, in a joking way, call Elden Ring Dark Souls 2 too, because it was really experimental with being an open world. There's other reasons too, but that's one of the biggest reasons. And I think it works for Dark Souls 2. It's cool to think that the first boss you fight or the first area you go to the fourth, can be completely different from someone else's. And when you replay it, it adds a lot of replayability because maybe you don't want to go to the Forest Fallen Giants first. You're going to go and rush. I'm blanking on the name of the area, but the area with the giant knights and you fight Dragon Rider. Like, if you want to do that first, you could. It would be a little harder, but there's nothing stopping you from doing that, and that's fun. It adds replayability. It just adds to the game. The next negative, and we're getting worse as it goes, so this is a little stronger than the other ones, the bosses. Boss lineup in the game, not the best. I don't think it's terrible, but most of the bosses were easy, unforgettable. There's a good amount of bosses that are just like groups of enemies, and that's annoying. Like the giant group of skeletons you fight was not fun. It wasn't hard. I think I beat it on my first or second try, but it's still just not an enjoyable experience to have a gank as a boss. And they did it too many times. Ruin Sentinels is what really, that was just a very poorly designed boss, especially since you can get the skip from the Forest Fallen Giants straight to Lost Bastille. So you're fighting this boss kind of early, and then you're sitting there, and there's one that hops up on a small platform. There's a 1v1. Not bad. But then the other two come up, and if they both get up there, you have to drop down. So you're forced to take a certain amount of damage just to fall from that platform. And then it's just one of those fights where you circle around, bait out moves, hit them. Just not enjoyable. That was not a well designed boss. I do see a complaint a lot that there's too many like guy with sword bosses or like knights, but that didn't really. That's not really hurting the boss roster for me. There's still some good bosses, obviously, like Looking Glass Knight, super fun. The final boss was easy but fun. I liked the fight before that, the Throne Defender and Throne Watcher, where they revived each other. My first time fighting it, I actually didn't know it was going to be a full health revive, and so that threw me off. And then I was trying to kill one while they revived. One comes back at full health. You have to like, you can't just play it like you do every other fight. It's a gimmick, I guess, but more in a fun way. So you have to plan the fight differently. But overall, the boss quality wasn't great. Like another just bad example of a boss is the Flexile Sentinel Sentry, the one where it's a guy on both sides. Not good. That was, and then it becomes a regular enemy later in the game because I think they kind of realized that it was a poorly designed boss. Actually, the Ruin Sentinel is an enemy in Dranglet Castle too, and they throw three of them in that one room. So it's just bosses weren't great. Next positive, and again they're getting bigger, storytelling, and this is just a FromSoft staple, so it's not Dark Souls 2 specific, but when we're comparing Dark Souls 2 as a game and not just as a Souls game, it is something that's going to stand out. The way the world design tells a story, and then the item descriptions, you have to piece together this puzzle if you really want the full story. It's not just going to be told to you. I love that. I love going the extra mile and learning more about the game, and then everything kind of clicks. Like you're in Dranglet Castle and you see the beasts and stuff in cages, and you're like, what are these experiments that are going on? And you can look through and see everything that happened with the king and his brother and the experiments they were doing to try to stop hollowing and everything. And it's just cool. I really enjoy that. I enjoy that if you're not one who loves story in your games, you can play through Souls games and just not interact with it. You can treat it as a boss rush with, like sections of world exploration in between and not worry about the story. So you can get as much from the story as you want, and I think that's just great game design. It's great. From here on out, we're getting to the really major things that make and break Dark Souls 2 and give it its reputation. First good one is build crafting. I had some of the most fun with my character in Dark Souls 2 out of all the Souls games, which I didn't expect. I ended up going with two maces. I would power stance them, which power stancing, awesome. You can use the same weapon, different weapons. Like power stancing is just great. And then I gave them both fire at a pyromancy flame. And so I put 20 into int and faith. And it gave me resistances too, which was great. I don't know if that's in every game off the top of my head, but I know it's more noticeable in Dark Souls 2. Where if you have 20 faith and 20 int, you're taking way less fire damage from the mages who like blow the little fire kisses, which are annoying. And then like you're taking less from spells. It's pretty great. I just felt like I was really designing my character. The armor looks good, Fashion Souls. and you can upgrade the armor to make it better. I really enjoyed crafting a build, and it was one of the better parts of the game. One of the biggest negatives is the enemy spawns. It's bad. There's not even much else to say. Like, there's no argument to be made for it. They spam enemies in a really bad way. Um, like Iron Keep, everyone knows Iron Keep. It's ridiculous the amount of enemies you have to go past to get to the boss log. And even after you die a bunch, they start respawning. It's still not good. It's just very poor. There's so many. Lost Bastille, the amount of knights that are just swarming out of that one building when you open the door, it's ridiculous. And this is every area I felt, even Forest Fallen Giants, like right at the beginning. There's just so many enemies, and they all aggro from far away, and it just makes it so annoying to fight multiple at once, especially with this more slow-paced combat. Like, you start your attack, next thing you know, you're getting poked by an enemy over there, you can't hit him. You do less damage when you go through enemies, so you can't multi-hit as well. It's one of the things that really holds the game back from being just fantastic. Now we're down to the best. The best thing I think Dark Souls 2 does is its art direction. And this kind of ties into the map and the world diversity and all that, but it all comes together. The art direction is just fantastic. Even when I was talking about Majula, like the way the sun is setting, the waves, the game looks great. Not necessarily graphical fidelity, but like just the way the art is designed. Every area feels different. They look amazing. Parts of it feel sad and depressing, and then Majula can give you that kind of calm. Vendrick, when he's just walking in circles, he looks like someone who's gone completely hollow, like in his dark castle. It's just depressing, and they really use color and just the way they design the environments to bring out so much. And I love the art of this game. It does that very well. Dark Souls 1 and 3 do as well, but Dark Souls 2, it's really a standout of the game. And the worst part of Dark Souls 2, by far, is the early game. I can go on and on about this. There's so many things that combine into this. They all could have been their own sections, but I just wrote early game, and it's all together. Number one, adaptability. That I get the idea behind it of you can play with a sword and shield, or if you want to roll through attacks and stuff, you can invest in adaptability and go into more of I'm going to roll through attacks and be fast. But the standard way to play it is rolling is part of your moves, and you need to have the iframes necessary to not get hit. And when you barely have any in the early game because of adaptability, you're playing a different game, and it's miserable. You have to invest so many points early into adaptability just to start playing Dark Souls the way you've been playing it and want to play it. Where if you started as like your regular dodge roll and you can increase your adaptability or agility stat, adaptability and attunement, and then you can get like extra iframes, your roll goes even further, and that could have been fun. But starting you out with a nerfed roll and then you have to dump all these points just to upgrade it didn't work out. I feel that really fell flat. The health loss, which I was supposed to mention earlier, but I'll throw it into early game because you feel it more there. You struggle, and the game's about, it's hard. That's part of Dark Souls. And they definitely took that to heart with Dark Souls 2 with all the traps and ganks and ambushes. But you die and you lose more health. So the game's no longer about struggling and struggling, then you overcome it. Because as you struggle, it gets harder and you're going to struggle more. It seems counterintuitive to the design philosophy of Dark Souls, and it was a bad mechanic. Starting with one Estus flask. Why? That doesn't even make sense. And I know you can technically have two if you knock down the stone of Majula. Unfortunately, I didn't see that my first playthrough, but you could start with two, but I don't even think two is enough. It makes you use the healing stones more, which they're not bad, but it's just, and your Estus takes longer when you don't have adaptability. So it all comes back to that. The early game is so brutal and it shouldn't be. But once you get to the mid game, your adaptability is upgraded, you have enough Estus flasks to actually play. It's fun. It's a fun game. So if they would have just done that from the start, instead of wasting your time at the beginning, it would have been better. And then, like I said earlier, with the slowness, you have to get used to it because it's even slower than Dark Souls 1. It just all combines to the early game being miserable. I remember I started the game and I was like, oh, this is bad. I know why people say it's bad. I'm not going to enjoy this at all. But then I get to the middle and end game. I'm like, no, this is a good game. They just started with their worst foot forward. And then it's time to break it all down, combine it together. Overall, I don't think Dark Souls 2 is a bad game. I think if you say it's just objectively bad, you're comparing it too much to the other Souls games, which are obviously masterpieces, and not seeing it for what it is. Just as a game itself, it's good. I do think it's the worst Souls game and the worst game that FromSoft made, but it is by no means a bad game. I had so much fun playing it, and then there are also times I had no fun. Struggling in Iron Keep, it was like 15 minutes between boss attempts on a boss that wasn't even that hard, just because getting to the boss room would take forever. And then you have less flasks, you have to fight all these enemies, and there's people shooting arrows. That's the worst area. Like, that was not fun. I wanted to drop the game, but I'm like, no, obviously it gets better. Get through this. And so there's so many design things that hold it back, but there's so many great things that it also does. And it, it all meshes together. I'm giving it a score of 85 out of 100. So a great game, not a masterpiece because it has its flaws. Much higher than I would have thought, even in the middle of playing this game. I didn't expect to give it such a high score, but after I beat it and I gave it some time to sit, because you can't review something as soon as you have to digest it. After digesting it, just that's how I feel about it. It has so many a lasting effect on me. I'm like, wow, that was a good game. I really enjoyed that. And you kind of forget about all the terrible things, and you remember them. You're like, okay, maybe I don't want to go back and play it, but I definitely think it's something you should try. If you've been putting it off because everyone says it's terrible, give it a playthrough, see how you feel about it. It's definitely not as bad as people say, but the bad things about it are as bad as people say, if that makes sense. Like when they complain, they're very valid complaints, and there's things that the game does wrong. But saying that they ruin it, at least for me personally, I don't think that it does. I think it's still an enjoyable experience that if you like FromSoft and you like Dark Souls, you should play it just to get the full trilogy, and it's definitely worth your time. Let me know what you would give it, what you think. Normally, I would link you to another video, another review, but this is the first review I've done on my channel. And that's it. Have a good one.